What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This is another basketball reaction from Dom2K, and the video we're reacting to is ranking the NBA MVPs from the 2010s. I did the same style of video on the ranking the NBA final MVPs from the 2010s, and I had the question which is the better award basically, and you guys like strongly the most people like commented under the video saying just the seasonal MVP, I'm going to call it, is a lot more of a like of an award, I guess you could say, or it's just high, it's like ranked higher basically than the final MVP. And that interests me, man, because I mean the final MVP is something over 7 games. This is something over the whole season. And something that sort of comes to my mind is, has anyone ever won the MVP and final MVP award in the same season? Because if that's the case, that's like domination, bro. I guess you have to win the NBA championship to get that award, because for the final MVP you have to win the NBA championship, or the playoffs, sorry. But yo, I love Dom2K. His videos are class. Also, quickly, I say this under every video, but I've made a Discord and it's so fun, man. I genuinely enjoy it. There's already 500 of you and I've had it for like 3 days. It blows my mind how many there is. And yo, it's just fun. It's full of memes. It's not just about certain sports. We just talk about anything, really. If you're interested in that, just click on the link in the description. Hopefully for future live streams, which I'm hoping to start soon, it's going to sort of be linked to that in some cases. But yeah, that's just something for people who are interested. But let's get into this and see what Dom2K has for us.
What about last week where he has played
loud as hell? God damn. Wait.
What a pass by Rondo.
That might be the Tiger.
Why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league?
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles. The LA Lakers, the 2010 NBA champions.
Or is this just his intro in general?
Alright, 2010's MVPs. Let's do it. Let's rank them in order. We have already done the championship teams. Ranked those in order a couple of weeks ago. Y'all were requesting that we do MVPs next. So we're just going to go straight up, look at the MVP seasons, all from the 2010s, and rank them from worst to best. Simple day. At number 10, give me 2015 Steph Curry. And I feel like this is...
So already, I know he didn't win the final MVP, which blew my mind actually. I thought he would have at least 1 or 2, because he's won 3, and he's often seen as the guy who sort of carries like the team with him, or not carries, but he's like a major part of it. So that was something that blew my mind. But at least he's got an MVP award.
Place to go ahead and say this.
He won it 2 times in a row, didn't he?
These were all MVP seasons, so they were all amazing seasons. But
yeah,
when actually looking at how to rank these, we're kind of splitting hairs here and there, trying to find out who did what better. And that's just the thing. See, in the year 2015, that was, out of all of the 2010s, that might have been the strongest rumbling we've heard that there could have been another MVP over who it was actually given to. Of course, this is the year that the Golden State Warriors actually broke out as a team, and that's what made everything so special. One year they are first round out to the Clippers. Next year they go 67-15.
Jeez.
And Curry
Massive
is obviously
change.
highlighted because he has become the best player on the best team. Now here's the thing. People often look back at the year 2014, Steph Curry's 2014 campaign, and say, well damn, his numbers in 2015 that actually won him the MVP are not all that better. They're better, no doubt, but there is not a glaring difference there. However, what they also don't know, because nobody cares if you don't place in the top 5, is that Steph Curry actually ranked 6th in MVP voting for 2014. Yes, 6th. That's actually kind of surprising when you think about it. He had no first place votes, but he did, however, rank. It wasn't like in 2014 there was just nobody knows who Steph Curry is, and in 2015 he does a little bit better and his team is winning now, and now he wins. In 2014 he had a couple of averages that were actually better. His scoring was better at 24 points per game as opposed to 23.8. I mean, that's not really a difference. But then he actually did average 8.5 assists as opposed to 7.7 in his MVP year. But see, here's the thing with that. You go from 2014 to 2015, what's different? Steve Kerr is now the coach. There is a completely different system. Steph Curry is doing less ISO, running around more screens, ball movement is better. So that's the one thing that people have always looked at Curry and said is, oh, he's a point guard, but his assist numbers aren't necessarily high. And it's all in the system. He's more successful in the system that has used him to move around and even sometimes as a decoy, as opposed to what he was running under Mark Jackson for a majority of the time. So the system allowed Curry and the team to be more successful, and people were mad. James Harden specifically was mad. Go back in time to the start of the 2016 season when he was asked about it, and he says he 100% deserved the 2015 MVP.
Wow.
And he felt not just, regular snubbed, he felt snubbed.
So I've seen that the perception of this was it was kind of controversial, but I guess when you win is the MVP award made before the end of the playoff, or is it made like the same time as the final MVP? Because if it's made beforehand, I guess the whole point of winning the championship, giving you an extra boost of winning the MVP award, wouldn't be there. But if it's made after and that he won it, maybe that sort of boosted his chances of winning it.
Curry won 2015 in a landslide. He got 100 of the 131st place votes.
Okay, it wasn't
Harden was
controversial.
like, wait, I led the Houston Rockets to finishing second. We had a ton of injuries that year. Says that they won their division in a division where every team made the playoffs, led the league in total points scored, minutes played. In other words, Harden feels like he did more and that he was more valuable to his team. Meanwhile, Curry was the best player on the best team, and that is an argument we have seen for damn near every MVP. But nevertheless, he had a point. I guess that's just the semantic arguments between, what do you really mean by most valuable player? And it doesn't seem like it's always equally applied, because look at 2017. That's another year I'm sure Harden believes he probably deserved it. A lot of people believe Harden deserved it, but that was given to Westbrook, and that is who I have at the number 9 slot.
Okay.
So off the top of my
Westbrook's
head, I
a
believe
wild
I can
player,
say
man.
without fact checking that the 47 and 35 Thunder were the worst team to produce an MVP this decade. I believe every other team probably had at least 50 wins, except for the 2012 Miami Heat, but that's because it was a lockout year, so there was less games. That being said, Westbrook had a hell of a season and broke that stereotype, that stereotypical MVP, the best player on the best team. It seemed like in 2017 they really gave the most valuable player to the...
That's sick to see this. So he had all these he had this insane season in a team that was full of, it wasn't a team that was full of superstars, or maybe it was full of some superstars, but they didn't have a great season. I think that's a very important thing in sport in general, because you don't usually see players, really good players on lesser teams get awarded with the same sort of level as the players on the better teams. But I do rate that a lot, that he won the MVP in that situation.
The guy they thought was most valuable to his team. Westbrook averaged 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists, making him the only other player in NBA history to have averaged a triple-double for a season.
How is his ninth?
Those are just a thing of the past, basically. No one really cares. You see on your ticker someone had a triple-double, specifically Westbrook, and you're like, cool. But you may not remember that in 2017, nobody ever thought that record would be touched again. That triple-double record was absolutely one that we never thought. We didn't think it would be able to be duplicated in a league that was so competitive and with so much intensity. It didn't seem possible. And the whole thing with Westbrook in 2017 was really storybook. It was all perfect timing. Kevin Durant had just up and left for the Golden State Warriors, so there was a big story there. And he left his quote-unquote brother Westbrook with a very subpar team. Of course, he had Oladipo, but this is before Oladipo had really broken out. And after that, there was a severe lack of shooting on this team, and that's why it was so significant what Westbrook was able to do in nearly winning 50 games. Sure, they had good defense, but Westbrook wasn't a great shooter. And
he is so rude, man.
Else around him. So, in the era of space and pace, that seemed like a death sentence. Despite that, he put up the incredible numbers. There was a direct correlation between the games that his team won and the games that he had a triple-double. He played 81 out of 82 games.
Jeez,
this is in an era of, well, okay, load management wasn't as much of a thing back then as it is now. It's progressively gotten worse, but still, rest was definitely a thing. It was a conversation.
81 out of 82 games.
He scored the most points that year. He had the second most assists that year. And after watching that entire season, once he hit the game winner against the Denver Nuggets, you knew that it was wrapped up. You knew that it was story time. You just knew that it fit too well for the MVP to go to anybody else. Problem was, James Harden was in a somewhat similar situation. I mean, he had shooters around him in 2017, but he also did not have another star around him. He had the second most total points, shot a better percentage, had the most assists that year. But here's the kicker. His team won more games. A lot more games relatively for guys in the MVP race. They had a record of 55 in 27. So this is the inconsistency, because 2017 was a time when they clearly put emphasis on the word value. As in, Westbrook was playing on a team that had no shooting, really did not fit well, but he mustered up enough to get them to the playoffs when a lot of people probably thought they weren't going to make it after KD left, as opposed to James Harden having Eric Gordon around him, Ryan Anderson, Luke Williams, Trevor Ariza. There were pieces that fit there, so once you look at Westbrook averaging a triple-double, that pretty much...
That is wild. Triple-double for an average is...
Again, Westbrook's percentages, as usual, were not great.
Disgusting.
There was pretty much visual evidence of his teammates allowing him to grab rebounds, and that triple-double plus the teammates that he had around him really just carried so much weight in him winning it that I think there are better MVP seasons. At
He is
number 8,
wavy,
we're going to
man.
be pretty consistent here, and although I love D Rose, I love his story,
Derrick Rose,
and
man.
will forever...
God, this story genuinely makes me sad because he was like the videos that I saw of him. He was like one of my first reactions, and god damn, he was like in terms of like his style of play was probably like my favorite sort of style of play I've seen in a player. Then obviously his whole story happened, and it's good to see him back. But still, man, like, obviously he's never going to be at the same point that he was at this moment. It's sad to see what injuries can do to a player and a person, but. In this, and he's ranked in 8th.
Reminisce about his MVP campaign in 2011. I gotta put him back here with Westbrook. I think these are fairly similar situations where you can find better MVP seasons, but because of the load that they carried and the burden that was on their shoulders, it made it hard for anybody else to win it. Now don't get me wrong, Rose 100% deserved his 2011 MVP. I would not have given it to anybody else. I don't think it's like Westbrook where you have a legitimate argument that Harden should have won it.
He's
People
so
have
brutal
tried to
with it as
argue
well.
LeBron forever, and I did this whole video already. I pretty much did all the points, and he had a lot of things going for him. The fact that he was so young, the fact that he came out of absolutely nowhere. Nobody came into 2011 saying Derrick Rose is going to be this year's MVP. All the injuries that had accumulated around him, so it wasn't just like Westbrook
man,
where
the
it was a team
injuries.
that didn't fit. They actually came in that year with a good team. They had signed Carlos Boozer, but he and a lot of other players were hurt for a lot of that season. So imagine a guy coming into a season where there's already not that high of expectations for him, yet he busts through those expectations and leads his team to the first place in a conference where you had the Big Three Miami Heat. Now, if we were doing MVP stories, this would probably go number 1. As a matter of fact, he and Westbrook would be 1 and 2. MVP seasons, however, you will find better ones than where a guy is shooting around 44%, which is
Oh
what
my
Rose
God.
was. Again, circumstantial. Number 1 option on a depleted team most of the year. You're probably going to be taking most of the shots, and you're not really set up in a situation to be as efficient as you can be. But then, hey, what about being the only player that season to have over 2,000 points and 600 assists? What about
Jeez.
having the second highest usage rating and playing 81 out of 82 games because your team needs it? He 1,000% deserved the MVP. It was storybook.
Baller,
LeBron's
man.
own teammate that year, Chris Bosh, came out and said he deserved it. As a
Look how
matter of
quick
fact, I
he
believe
is.
LeBron himself said he deserved it. It was real recognizing real. But just straight up MVP seasons, you will find better, and that's what this list is about. At number 7, James Harden finally got his MVP.
Finally, so he's been on the cusp twice. Like he came second, but basically twice for the Curry season and the Westbrook season. He's now got the MVP himself. So he's been like Harden's been up there for consistently for a lot of
After
years.
supposedly having been snubbed at least twice, he takes it home in 2018 with averages of 30 points a game, 9 assists, 2 steals. And you know what? This is one of those years where I don't necessarily think there was much of a debate for the MVP, and he won first place votes over LeBron James in a complete landslide. See, the thing about 2018, this was a time where LeBron just was not going to get the MVP. The Cavaliers were in complete turmoil. It was pretty much the worst they'd been since he returned. Kyrie Irving was no longer there. It was not a championship team, and the only argument people could really make for LeBron against Harden that year was that, hey, LeBron is putting up amazing numbers and he's playing with a worse team. That being said, when you talk about the 2018 Cavaliers' defensive woes, everybody played a part, including LeBron. I think that was one of LeBron's seasons where the only way they could argue it is just saying, okay, if we took both players off of each team, who would be better? Which team would be better? And when that's the only argument for the MVP, in most years, the guy you're arguing for is not going to win it. You also look at the fact that Harden was helping to initiate what was the most efficient offense in history, or at least one of the best offenses in history, with them winning 65 games and placing first in the conference.
He
that
is
also
so-
had the Kevin Durant Warriors. Nobody.
I am. What is that?
or at least one of the best offenses in history, with them winning 65 games and
Oh
placing
my
first in
God.
a conference that also had the Kevin Durant Warriors. Nobody else had a chance.
Oh my
The
God.
other guys that place on this list are Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard. We're talking about guys who were on teams that we knew
So he was
were
competing
good enough
against
to win
big
MVP,
players,
unless they were doing something like Westbrook did, and neither one of them were. So Harden more or less
Harden, man, what a
uncontested.
player.
Only thing is, now we're getting very close to the top 5, and this is where you kind of have to split hairs. And his shooting that year, 44%, 36 from 3. I can find you better and tougher MVP seasons starting right here. The first MVP of this decade, the first MVP of the 2010s. We are going to put LeBron James right outside of the top 5, and it's
Okay.
very, very close. This is where you really have to split hairs. How many of you even remember the 2010 NBA season? No. How many of you even remember
This is when he's what, like 25. He still looks so old then. He just looks like so, I don't know what the word is. He just looks like a warrior. Like, even back then, like, he just looks like he's ready to fight. I don't know if that makes sense, like saying he looks old, but I don't know. I just get that from. This is when he's like 26,
Let me
right?
refresh your memory. 61 wins with a team that was not that great. They just
Okay.
played great basketball. 2010 Cavaliers were touting what was left of Shaquille O'Neal, and he only played 53 games. They got Antoine Jameson some way through, which was really supposed to, it was supposed to push them over the top. It obviously didn't, but that was a thing. Mo Williams, who was often considered the second best player next to LeBron for a lot of his stint there. Then you get to names like Delonte West, Varejao, JJ Hickson. Yeah, look, if you're just looking at names, this roster was not that good. If you're looking at the basketball they played, I watched that season very intently, and they played great basketball together. Of course, it was led by the MVP LeBron James. LeBron came out that year and put up 30 points a game, 2 steals, 9 assists, 7 rebounds,
Jeez.
shot 50%, and then
50%.
33% from 3. Here's the thing. This was on the back end of him repeating as MVP. So the year before in 09, if you look at the stats, he actually improved in a couple of the categories. He improved his scoring, improved his assists, improved his field goal percentage, and even though it wasn't by much, it was the fact that he managed to get better at all, because in 09, we were looking at a LeBron that we believed to be at peak athleticism. I think you could argue that with 2013. I don't know, I think he kind of stayed the same from 09 to 13 in terms of athleticism. But when you looked at 09 and watched him come back better in 10, that's what made it special.
Back to back,
when
bro.
you watched LeBron
Oh.
James in 2010 flirt with an efficient 30-point triple-double on a team that wasn't even that great and still managed to win 60
Again, man,
games,
triple-double.
this had to be either top 5 or right outside of it, and that's why I placed it, because everything inside the top 5 is extremely special. At number 5, give me what is already an underrated and forgotten campaign.
Giannis.
2019 Giannis. And Giannis's MVP campaign will always be underrated for the simple fact that it really feels.
We've been having debates about, or I say we. I've been looking at the people in the Discord talking about Giannis versus Harden, and it's interesting to see because I mean Harden's MVP season's ranked behind, like lower than Giannis's, but Harden's been like in the sort of conversation for a longer time, I guess because he's older. But Giannis from this year, from what people have said and from what I've seen, he looks like an absolute monster.
Fizzled under the spectacle that was Kawhi in the playoffs. People thought with what the Bucks had done all season that
Oh.
they really should have been in the NBA Finals. They get to the Raptors and they're never really even in control of that series. So ultimately, people are going to forget about him being the lone superstar on a 60-win
Okay.
team. People are going
Lone
to
super-
forget
okay,
about
so that
the
speaks
historical
volumes
point
then.
differential that they were boasting in the Eastern Conference. They were really, really dusting teams. That's what made how they fizzled out in the conference finals really so much of a surprise. They're going to forget about him leading his team in pretty much every category. Points, rebounds, field goal percentage. And they weren't just any kind of numbers either. We're talking 28 points, 13 rebounds, 58% field goal percentage. That means a guy who couldn't shoot the basketball, a guy where people knew where he was going all season, couldn't stop him. Of course, that's where I looked at it and said, I think this is going to matter the deeper you get into the playoffs, and lo and behold, it did. Toronto built a wall, and his effectiveness was kind of cut out, but we're talking about the actual season itself.
Okay,
He
yeah,
was
I get
named
it.
first team All-NBA and first team All-Defense. The guy pretty much did everything but shoot well. He had stat lines being compared to Will Chamberlain, and
Jeez.
in terms of who else could have won MVP, I thought it was pretty clear all season that he was going to win it. I made a video on the second channel during the season talking about how people were complicating it because you saw the MVPG thing come out. There was a campaign for Paul George to have won MVP before his shoulder was hurt. Then every time Harden would have a high scoring night, they would go to him. But I was like, if you look at the entire season and
Harden's
the entire body of
in the
work,
conversation
to me,
again.
it was pretty clear that it was Giannis. With everything he was doing and leading leading his team to wins, along with the fact that we were debating if he could be Defensive Player of the Year. I really don't understand why anybody thought anyone else had a realistic chance.
See, that's what I find insane. He's got all these like insane dunks, but he's like considered a more defensive style of player, or what he's saying, the best defensive player that year. He's just an all-round baller, man. He is nuts.
So with everything else I've talked about, along with the fact that he was pretty clearly the MVP, like anyone could have guessed it, I think that's very deserving of a top 5 spot. At number 4, let's go 2012 LeBron James. And although you could look at 2010 and say, hey, 30 points a game, more assists, worse team, isn't that more impressive? And no, I'm going to say that LeBron James is a better player in 2012. And the very minuscule hits to the numbers that he takes are all circumstantial. 27 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. First of all, the points and assists, those directly go down from him playing with another ball handler, Dwyane Wade. That being said, this is the season that Wade gives LeBron the keys to the Miami Heat. He says, look, what we tried last year didn't work, you were very passive, you're the best player in the NBA, this is your team. LeBron then takes that and becomes the best version of himself that we've ever seen. Up to that point, his field goal percentage raises from 2010. Of course, he's playing on a better team, so it's a little bit harder to defend him, but he's also shooting a better percentage from 3. His 36% of that year is actually the best of his career up to that point. He's second overall in total points that year behind only Kevin Durant, and the reason that and the other things I've discussed are so amazing and particularly better than 2010 to me is because we've had this discussion. It's a little bit more difficult to be great on a team with other greats. When you saw Steph Curry and KD join forces, what's the first thing that happened? We said, oh damn, we're not going to see 2016 Steph again for a while. He'll probably be really good, but when you have another great player that's going to demand attention on your team, it's going to be hard to really show that MVP greatness all the time.
That's a very good point that you put
he's
there,
the focal point and he can just put his greatness on full display every night. That's awesome, and that's an amazing season. But when you're on the team with Wade and Bosh and you're still able to become the best player in the NBA, play at an MVP level, and manage everything that comes.
So he shined. But what I'm getting from what he's saying here, he shined in a team that was full of superstars, which again, from what he's saying, is a harder thing to do in basketball, because there's going to be more people. Like the points are going to be spread. Like who's going to score more, like assist more, etc. Because everyone's going. I say everyone. The more superstars, the more people are going to want to sort of like show off, or maybe not show off, but like show their worth in a sense. So I like what he's saying at this point.
With that, and just overall be a better player than you were in 2010. That's my reasoning for having this inside the top 5.
He's rapid.
2010 was probably a little bit prettier, but if you really understand
Somebody's
what happened
6'7",
there, I think this makes
fast
sense.
as hell.
Moving on to number 3, oh man, let me tell you a story about what y'all forgot. 2014 Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is the most slept on MVP of the decade. People seem to forget that Russell Westbrook goes out that year, and Kevin Durant has statistically and visually one of the best seasons I've ever seen. I'm talking about the degree of difficulty on the shots, because guys know they can kind of crowd him now without Westbrook on the floor. He went on an absolute tear, and to be able to win MVP at a time when LeBron James was still at his height, this is so
That speaks volumes,
With
yeah.
Russell Westbrook appearing in 46 games, Kevin Durant is still able to help lead the Thunder to 59 wins, nearly 60 wins. And he goes completely off, 32 points a game, 6 assists showing that he can actually distribute the ball, that he's not just a scorer, a steal, and 7 rebounds. That's on top of shooting 50% from the field and 39% from 3. So we're talking about doing everything and being efficient while being forced into some of the tougher looks that you will really see him take throughout his career. Durant plays 81 games that year because his team needs
81, bro.
2,593 points. That's 400 more points than Carmelo Anthony, who was in second place. He attempts the most field goals in the NBA that year while managing to shoot 50%. Look, man, I have no problem admitting that while this season was going on, I, for the one time early in that decade, questioned if there was a better player than LeBron James. I really did. I watched KD in 2014. I specifically remember watching them play when Kevin Durant actually went to Miami with no Westbrook, and he gave LeBron the work. I questioned it. I did. I thought that KD might have been the best player in the NBA that year. And after what LeBron James did in 2013, to see a player actually be able to even contend to win the next year, that was just incredible. It's never talked about. It's slept on. That could only be outdone by a couple of seasons, right? Right. At number 2, I'm going 2016
Curry, his back-to-back, yeah.
Shit, how did I get to the point where I put the unanimous MVP second? It'll all make sense in a minute, but I do want to say that number 1 and 2 on this list are more like 1A and 1B.
Oh, so I'm guessing from what he's saying there is could be seen as a controversial one. So many people will see this as number 1. I'm guessing from what he's saying, yeah.
Kind of. But nevertheless, Curry is 1B here. Look, man, 2016 Curry is something that
I've heard so much about this Curry this season.
Never see again. Maybe this year with Klay Thompson being out and KD gone, Curry will be unleashed and he'll go back to this. That's the hope. But actually watching and witnessing this season live, there were things I had to question basketball. I had to question basketball. I had to question things I watched from Kobe and LeBron. Like,
jeez.
Specifically that night in OKC, the ankle game. That nickname never really caught on, but the man pulled up from damn near half court like he knew he could make it, and then he did. That was just one of many instances of him that season pulling from half court like he knew he could make it, and then he did. He took some of the craziest shots in basketball, shots that just a couple of years earlier would have had him sat on the bench, shots that when you used to take them in the old 2Ks and the old NBA lives, the commentators would be like, oh, what is he doing? He's going to the bench.
Bro, he's breaking the laws of the physics of video games.
Living out of in 2016. He averaged 30 points a game, 7 assists, 2 steals, so where people say that he was not a great defender, he was definitely a great decision maker on that end of the floor and knew how to play the passing lanes. That's a skill. 5 rebounds. And then this is the crazy part. 50, 40, 90. 50% on the field goal, 45% on the 3-point shot.
So from 3-pointers outside the 3-point line, he averaged 45% of the shots. That is disgusting. That is wild. So his decision making for when to take the 3-pointers is also just as good as his actual shot. But that is mental.
90% on free throws. How the fuck? It's not just the numbers, it's how he was getting them. Man was turning around before he hit his shots. Turning around and looking at people's benches before the shot went in. He made 400 threes that year. Definitely a record. Became the first player since Michael Jordan in 1992 to average at least 30 points while shooting 50%. On the steals, I'm sorry I left out. He led the league in steals that year. He became the first player since Allen Iverson in 2002 to lead the league in both scoring and steals. He increased his scoring average by 6 points. Do you know that in 2016 we were talking about Curry possibly winning most improved player? Who talks about a guy who just won MVP?
That is insane. So he just won the MVP and he's... Wait, what? Is that how much of a monster season this really was? That is put into terms how insane this season must have been.
Winning most improved
That's
player.
mind-blowing.
Yes, this was on the back end of consecutive MVPs. We talked about earlier how hard it is to get better from an MVP season. Curry got a lot better. 2016 Curry is superior to 2015 Curry. That was the highest increase in points for an MVP in history. So you get the point. Curry's 2016 campaign did not just look unbelievable, it was unbelievable. From both a visual and statistical standpoint, I doubt anybody else has the ability to ever reproduce a season like that. So let's keep our fingers crossed for 2020. So what could possibly be better than that? What could possibly be better than Curry's 2016 campaign? A unanimous campaign? Well, it would obviously have to be another campaign that should have been unanimous. Let's stop bullshitting. We know what it is. 2013 LeBron James. This is the only...
So he won it in 2010. He won it in 2009, 2010, 2012, and 2013. Bro, LeBron has been on fire. Was that? I'm guessing that around that sort of time was definitely his prime then, because that is mental. But let's see what this one's about.
Campaign that could ever be put over Curry's, and the fact that anybody thought anybody deserved MVP except from Curry in 2016 is absolutely absurd. It's like people were just talking just to hear themselves talk that year. But yes, 2013 LeBron James, in my opinion, is probably the best LeBron we ever saw. 27 points a game, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. 57% from the field. 57.
What?
Talking about a small forward, not a center who's just under the goal dunking. A guy who's handling the ball and shooting threes, by the way.
57, bro. That's
the
just
3-point season ever at 40%. Coincidentally, the year that he played with Ray Allen. So while he's doing all of these other things, he's playing elite defense. He could have easily have been the defensive player of the year. He was the runner-up in 2013. His player efficiency rating of that year, 32. That is one of the highest ever. True shooting percentage of 64%. Like I said earlier, pretty much at peak athleticism. I believe that is the season he jumped over John Lucas, and yeah, he hadn't really lost much since 2013. I don't think he lost anything. Yeah, it's hard to argue that there was a better version of LeBron James than 2013. Helped lead them to that that 27-game win streak, 66 wins, and the only reason it's not unanimous, the only reason is because somebody thought that Carmelo Anthony was more valuable to his team because, wait, if you take Carmelo off the Knicks, they don't make the playoffs. If you take LeBron off the 2013 Heat, Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh can probably still lead them there and probably get pretty far. That was the logic, so just think about that every time that you use that argument.
Some of these arguments or these bits of logic, I can see why they're used, but I don't think they should be used to take away from a player's season. Like he said, he's saying about how his teammates were basically they were better than the Carmelo Anthony. But I mean, is that really a fair thing to do? I mean, I guess if you put it into some sort of terms, you can see why they do it. But for me personally, you see like the stats, and you see how he played. It shouldn't really be a conversation, but maybe some people look at it differently, and that's fair enough.
The take players away from teams argument, that was a stupid enough argument to cost LeBron James unanimous MVP because a voter actually used it. Was he right? Probably. Did it make any sense at all? Absolutely not. That's a joke. That's a complete joke. I think if you were in a deep debate about why 2016 Curry isn't 1A instead of LeBron James 2013, I would say defense is the big divider there.
So he was saying he was more all-round, yeah?
Basically any player that year. Very versatile, guard multiple positions while playing the passing lane like Curry did. Very vocal, could make great rotations. Yeah, when you talk about everything he did on the offensive side, plus his elite defense that really maybe should have won the Defensive Player of the Year, I think that's where I probably put it over 2016. But hey, if you argue that Curry's was better and that he should be 1A, you know what? I'm not mad at you because I watched 2016 and again, couldn't believe my eyes. Anyways, if there is something on this list that causes you not to be able to believe your eyes, make sure to talk about it in the comment section. Hit the like button, comment, and sub.
That blog, bro, the audacity to do that.
Wherever. Let me know what are the top 10 lists you would like to see from the 2010s. The MVPs were very highly requested, so there you have it. That is my list. Make sure to leave yours in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.
Mate, this guy's slowly becoming one of my favourite basketball channels. And looking at the like to dislike ratio, people seem to somewhat agree with what he says. I'm just interested in seeing what you said. If you got to this part of the video, who would you rank? Just rank the top three, because I'm guessing the most controversial or the most sort of the highly rated ones are between LeBron from 2013 or Curry from 2016. Who would you say his season was better? I guess it's all down to opinions. Maybe a bit of bias will come in if you're a LeBron fan or if you're a Curry fan. But nevertheless, both incredible seasons, and all of them, man. I love stuff like this. It's just making me learn about certain things. Is there one from the 2000s, for the NBA MVPs or final MVPs? Because not got corona, alright? I just choked myself. I'd love to see the more the further back details of the sport, and maybe even further from the 90s. I just love learning about history, whether it be in soccer or just in general. Not even just in sport. I just love learning about history and things that I'm interested in. But I do enjoy Dom2K's style of video as well. And again, if he's got more videos like this, please let me know. Ranking NBA championship teams for 2010s. Should I see that one? Because he was saying at the start of the video that was the original one before he made this video. Let's just see the comments. I'm interested to see what people say. Crazy how about in 4 months 2010s will be over. Okay, there. This video was actually before this current season that was ongoing, and he was wrong about Curry, because yeah, the Warriors struggled hard this year. Giannis and Steph's numbers are a little underrated in my opinion, considering they set out most 4 quarters. Okay, so they could have had a lot higher. Could we all agree at 2013 and other greatest MVPs of this decade, maybe top 10 or even top 5 of all time? See, I mean, that goes to show how good they were, right? Calling him an alien. Yo, I love these sorts of videos, man. I just love learning about sport. It's really, really fun for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Do you want to see more things like this? Just suggest them. Again, link to my Discord, because there's a lot of suggestions that go in there that I'm doing currently. And yeah, it might give you a bit of an extra chance for your videos to be seen in future. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Until next time, like, subscribe, peace.